This is a story about the pilot and the wolf. The rain poured like a waterfall, blanketing the Alaskan wilderness in a gray, oppressive shroud. John grasped the yoke, his knuckles white, as his Cessna lurched and shuddered through another air pocket. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died. No, no, no! Not again! Not here! He wrestled with the controls, aiming for the nearest clearing. The plane hit the treetops with a jarring crunch, bounced once, twice, before skidding to a halt. John unbuckled himself, shaking as adrenaline flooded his system. The plane was toast, but he'd made it out alive. His altimeter and compass were busted, his radio silent, but his survival pack was intact. He grabbed it, tossed it over his shoulder, and stepped into the sodden embrace of the Alaskan taiga. The first day was a blur of cold and wet, navigating through thickets and crossing storm-swollen streams. By evening, he found a cave etched into the side of a hill, welcoming and dry. He huddled there, munching on the energy bars, listening to the rain retreat, replaced by the howling of wolves. Night 2 was worse. The wolves pounding. He heard them first, their mournful cries echoing through the darkness. Then he saw them, spectral figures slinking around the cave mouth. He threw a rock, shouting, driving them back. For hours he kept watch, heart pounding, until they moved on. Dawn broke cold and dreary. John stepped out of the cave, stretching his stiff muscles. A few paces away, something caught his eye. A clump of fur caked in mud and blood. He approached cautiously, picking up a stick. A wolf pup lay there, panting softly, his right hind leg mangled and bleeding. It whimpered when he nudged it with the stick. John hesitated. He couldn't leave it to suffer. He couldn't take care of it either. Yet here they were, both survivors. He dug a shallow trench with his hands, laid the pup in it to keep it warm, and covered it with branches. Sorry, little guy, he whispered. Can't do more. Days turned into a week. John scavenged for food, learning to set snares, found berries and roots. Each day he checked on the pup. It was alive but weak, its wound festering. Guilt gnawed at him. He couldn't let it suffer. He tore strips from his shirt, fashioned a bandage, and cleaned the wound as best he could. The pup growled weakly, snapping at him. Easy, buddy, John murmured. I'm trying to help. He shared his meals with it, tying chunks of meat from a string for it to drag closer. They developed a strange routine. John would approach, the pup would growl. John would talk softly until it quieted. One day, John returned to find the pup missing. Panic surged through him. He searched frantically, calling out. Then he heard a faint whimper. There it was, in a clump of brush, shivering but alive. It licked his hand when he picked it up, its first voluntary gesture. Weeks passed. John named the pup Ghost, for its spectral eyes and pale fur. Ghost grew stronger each day. They fell into a rhythm. John hunted, Ghost followed him, watched him, with those intense eyes. They shared meals, sat near each other. One evening, Ghost lay down next to John, resting his head on his lap. John stroked its fur, feeling a strange bond form. Then came the night when they returned. The adult wolves howled in the distance, louder, closer. Ghost bolted upright, ears perked, growling softly. John's heart pounded. This was their territory. They'd been tolerant so far, but suddenly Ghost stepped in front of him, hackles raised. John reached for his knife, heart hammering. "Ghost," he whispered, "stand down." But Ghost wouldn't move. A large wolf stepped into the cave mouth. It was huge, its fur as dark as a storm cloud. Ghost growled, his voice deep and threatening. The big wolf barked sharply. To John's astonishment, Ghost stopped growling and whined. The big wolf stepped aside, allowing the others to filter in. They milled around John, sniffing him curiously. He stood stiff, sweat trickling down his spine. Then Ghost stepped back to him, leaning against his leg. The pack sniffed Ghost, nuzzled it gently. John exhaled slowly. After what felt like an eternity, the pack leader barked again. The others filed out. The leader last. He looked at John, then Ghost. "Stay," he seemed to say. Then he was gone. The pack melting into the night. Ghost turned to John, whining. It pawed at his leg, looking up at him with those pale eyes. "What, Ghost?" John asked softly. "What do you want me to do?" The next days were tense. Ghost followed John, but kept his distance. John found him watching the hills at sunset, longing in his eyes. He understood. It was Ghost's family out there. One morning, Ghost didn't wake up with him. John searched, calling out. No answer. He spent the day despairing, then decided he'd had enough. He'd find a way out, with or without Ghost. He followed the river, setting traps for beavers, using their pelts to fashion a makeshift raft. He worked tirelessly, fueled by anger and loneliness. On the third day, he saw Ghost watching him from the shore. It didn't approach, just watched him warily. The raft was ready. John pushed it into the water, grabbed a makeshift paddle. "So long, Ghost," he muttered. The wolf whined sadly. John paddled away, tears stinging his eyes. After hours of paddling, he heard a splash. He turned and saw Ghost swimming towards him. John opened his arms as Ghost clambered onto the raft. It chirped, water flying everywhere. They traveled together until they found a small cabin by the water's edge. A catch of food and supplies lay untouched. They found civilization. John turned to Ghost, laughing. "Looks like you made your choice, after all, buddy." In the cabin, John found a note. "If you're reading this, we're glad you made it. We've left supplies for you to make your way back to Anchorage." A phone number was scribbled below. It took them a week to get back. John on foot with Ghost by his side. Then they arrived to find search parties still out looking for them. John's story was met with disbelief and joy. The local vet examined Ghost, declared him healthy despite the missing toes on his right paw. "Can't hurt much now," She chuckled. Do you mean it won't? Won't attack people? A nervous ranger asked. John smiled, ruffling Ghost's fur. Not this one. He's just a big old softy. Back in Anchorage, John found a job at a local wildlife rescue center. Ghost became their mascot, attracting visitors and donations alike. John and Ghost were inseparable, their bond unbroken. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset over Cook Inlet, Ghost rested his head on John's lap. John looked down at him, affection swelling in his chest. They found each other in the wilderness, two survivors, bound by fate and circumstance. Thank you, he whispered, stroking Ghost's fur one more time, before darkness fell. The end.